What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Monday edition of NBA Live here at FTNDaily.com. My name is Zach Graham, a.k.a. Kawhisenberg DFS, and I'm joined, as always now on Mondays, by my good buddy, my co-host on the FTN NBA podcast, my partner in dream streaming, and apparently newest signee of the Philadelphia Phillies. It's Adam Pfeifer. How you doing, Adam?
Yeah, I want to say that I'm wearing this because baseball is right around the corner and I'm excited, but it's really just I happen to be wearing this hoodie because I got out of the shower this morning and I was freezing, so I put a hoodie on and grabbed a hat. I was like, this matches. So I'm not playing for the Phillies. I'm terrible at baseball. But yeah, I'm doing good.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're doing all right. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Looked like I saw a decent number of screenshots coming through in the Discord, on Twitter, both on the NBA side and the college side. I know Mike Kutry and the team doing some work, both for daily fantasy, on the betting side of things. I mean, this is the time of year to be following all of our college basketball experts. So if you haven't joined in yet, obviously still 2 more weeks of the tournament to go. So I would recommend that you go and try out that college basketball product. But we're here to talk about the 9 games on the NBA slate this evening. Somewhat of an interesting schedule here, Adam. 9 games on the docket, but all of them tipping off by 8:30 Eastern. So, I think we just got a flurry of news in that last hour. The guys behind the paywall, Kyle and David, obviously trying to read and react as best as possible to just that flood coming in. We had Kyle Kuzma ruled out. We had Andre Drummond doubtful. We had some Pistons injuries that we need to talk about. So because those guys had so much more on their plate than I think they were planning, I think we should go ahead and just kind of do a second run through of all 9 games, go game by game. I know we like to kind of dovetail around on these Mondays, but I think that would benefit all of our premium subscribers the most. If that's all right with you, Adam, you ready to get into it?
Yeah, it's all right with me.
All right. I just got to ask, man,
Am I going to walk off?
I mean, you might. You never know, man. You never know. First game up here, we'll go chronologically. The Pelicans visiting the Hornets. This is a rematch of a game we saw just 10 days ago. The Hornets blew the Pelicans out in that one in New Orleans. And so the Pelicans looking for some revenge here today. Looking at the injury report, nothing really new for the Hornets. Hayward's still out. A trio of G League type players on assignment or on 2 ways: Kai Jones, Cole Boca, Scotty Lewis, etc. On the Pelican side, we're really only waiting for one piece of news, but we got some discouraging news on Zion Williamson over the weekend, confirmed out for the rest of the season. Brandon Ingram, Larry Nance, Kira Lewis Jr. also out for this game. Devontae Graham questionable. That's the one piece of news we're still waiting for from this game. So Adam, when you look at Pelicans, Hornets, 1 of 3 games tipping off right at lock. Is anything standing out to you as a priority from either team?
I don't know about a priority because the mid 8K to 9K, mid 9K range at guard is pretty loaded today. Mm-hmm. But it's hard not to like McCollum, especially with Brandon Ingram still out, especially in this matchup. I mean, we've seen him since he's joined the Pelicans. He's just been, and it's weird because he's played a lot this year without Lillard when he was with Portland, but he's been more consistent since he's joined this team. He's facilitating a lot, playing more point guard. I think his assist rate is flirting with 30% since he's joined this team with Ingram off the floor. Mm-hmm. And then obviously if Devontae Graham is ruled out again, that only adds to the usage and ball handling duties and point guard role. So I like McCollum a lot, especially against Charlotte. Joval I think is interesting. The price is up, but you still get more usage from him with Ingram out. He's coming off a huge game. He has 4 straight double-doubles. They've all been pretty strong double-doubles, and we know how bad Charlotte is against centers. So they definitely stand out the most to me from New Orleans. From Charlotte, I think Charlotte's everybody's in a fine spot. Everybody's priced appropriately. LaMelo 8,800. The minutes, if he can play 35 minutes, he can go for 60 fantasy points. It's just there's a lot of occasions where he plays 30 to 32 minutes, and while he can still get there in that time frame, when you're comparing him to other players at his position who are playing, I mean, we'll talk about him, but Darius Garland's in the same range. He plays 40 minutes a game, not even an exaggeration, right around 40 minutes a game lately with all the injuries and and all these close games. So it's hard to put LaMelo over a lot of these guards that are playing massive minutes when we've seen so many instances where he plays like 32.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm pretty much in lockstep with you. LaMelo would be my favorite of the Hornets to get to if I had to get there. And I'm not going to fault anybody for putting a Terry Rozier in the lineup. Obviously, he's been extremely hot when you look at like his last 10 games. Certainly some volatility in there as that kind of comes with the Terry Rozier package going back to his days in Boston. But we know the upside is there. You talked about LaMelo's minutes being limited over the last few weeks. We saw that minute ceiling, like you said, 36 minutes against Atlanta 2 games ago.
Yeah, and if we see it, and I feel like a lot of people have the same thought process. Like, yeah, he's got a ceiling, but he's playing like 32 minutes. I don't want to go there, but like if he gets the extra 5-6 minutes, then
he's severely underpriced, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
If you're going to get 36 minutes of LaMelo, 8-8, in my opinion, is too cheap. So no smash plays for me, really, on either side of this game. I think you broke it down perfectly with CJ McCollum, the upside he sees with Ingram out if Devontae Graham is out for this team tonight. And Joe Val, the matchup, if any of our subs didn't read Joe Metz's article today, he broke down, fairly concisely, just it's the Hornets matchup. I think we've talked about that for months now, and those guys remain at the bottom of the league against nearly every metric in the front court. So per advanced DVP, I should say, one of the exclusive premium tools here at ftndaily.com. So J-Val, I think 8-3 is going to keep the masses off of him. So I like him a good bit in tournaments. So not differing, obviously, from you there. Let's move on to the Lakers visiting your boys in Cleveland. Cavaliers hosting the Lakers here tonight on the last refresh.
I don't think LeBron's going to leave the arena tonight.
He's just going to walk back to his old locker room there?
Yep, he might just sit put.
The Lakers are 5-point road underdogs here, 228.5 implied total in this one. And I guess I'll start there with the Lakers and with LeBron. LeBron, my favorite spend up on this slate, Adam. I completely buy into the narrative of him going back to Cleveland and wanting to put on a show anytime he's there, because we've seen that going back all the way to the first time he left and going to Miami, specifically the 2 games with the Lakers that he's played in Cleveland, 75 and 62.5 DK points. And then over the full, you would think it would be a bigger sample size than it is. He's only played in Cleveland 8 times for other franchises, but he averages 62.5 DK points over those 8 games. So for your 11-6 on DK tonight with the power forward center eligibility, he slightly gets the edge over Luka for me. And I think it's not something I do frequently, but I think it's the narrative that's pushing me over the top. But it's kind of a multifaceted narrative here. Going back to Cleveland, which we just read out the stats, the historical stats from that, it's him chasing the scoring title, which we talked about on the podcast last week, and the fact that the Lakers need to win to secure a play-in spot here. And all indications are that they are still trying to do that. So LeBron, my favorite spend up on the slate. How do you feel about him? And then talk to me about your favorite team.
Yeah, I think I slightly lean Luka, but yeah, I mean, LeBron playing plenty of minutes at center. Like you said, just we talked about it, but I agree. I think you're always going to get peripherals, some of the best peripherals in basketball from LeBron every game. Mm-hmm. But if he's even more kind of engaged on the offensive side and trying to get the scoring title and everything, like we could see 40-point real games, which like it's fair to say outside of maybe this season, as of the last couple of years, it's been like obviously Giannis, Luka, and Embiid getting a lot of these 40-point games among the high-end studs, and LeBron's been in he's getting his 26, 9 and 12. But now if he's getting 40 points on top of that's where the upside's clearly, it's always there, but it's even more so now. For Cleveland, it's Garland. I think Garland's not surprising anybody. I think he's one of the best plays this slate though. Like I've essentially been writing up any point guard that's faced this Lakers team for a while now. They're just not good. I mean, most points per game allowed position to point guards, 5th most assists per game. Garland's been ridiculous all year, but especially lately. Last 6 games averaging 24 points, 10.5 assists, 3.5 rebounds, and just over 46 fantasy points per game. He is top 5 in touches per game, time possession per game and potential assists per game. He's recorded double-digit assists in, I believe it's 7 of his last 10. So add that with the matchup. It's a great spot for Garland. And like I said, he's playing 38 to 40 minutes in close games. And I do expect this game to be close because Cleveland doesn't blow anybody out. So I love Garland. I think you can get to Mobley if you want. He's been playing great at center. Not a priority for me. I think I would rather get up to like right around Rudy Gobert or get up to Joe Val or Christian Wood, but still a really strong play. And then I don't think we have the starting lineup yet, but with Wade and Rondo out and obviously Jared Allen out and still Karis LeVert coming off the bench, like Lamar Stevens has been starting, Isaac Okoro is playing massive minutes. If you got to them, wouldn't fault you, but with all the news we've gotten over the last hour or so, there's probably plenty of better value options to get to. So it's honestly mostly Garland for me, but Mobley, Markkanen are very solid plays as well still.
Yeah, I'm with you. Garland would be my favorite play. Not a hot take, obviously, from this team to play the guy that projects for the most fantasy points and is the most expensive. But to all the points you made about Garland, he's been great lately. It is a good matchup. We expect this game to stay close. And so I think a LeBron Garland stack is not something that I would really shy away from today.
It's been talked about in Discord a lot, and I like it.
Yeah. That's not bad at all. I think there's a couple games we can look at some mini stacks like that. And I agree with you. A guy like Okoro, a guy like Lamar Stevens, like I'm not going to call you crazy if they're in your lineup, but I'm going to probably say you're playing 150 lineups, right? If you have shares of those guys. Certainly not single entry plays, and I wouldn't have any if I was running my 20 lineups tonight either. The other game of this trio going off at lock, and probably the most fantasy friendly in my opinion, the Portland Trailblazers visiting the Detroit Pistons, the biggest tankathon game of the night. The Pistons actually, last time I checked, fairly large favorites here, even though both teams missing a ton of players. The Pistons 10-point home favorites here, 222.5 implied total. Let's go ahead and start with the visiting Blazers. Very similar injury report here to the last few weeks. Bledsoe, Joe Ingles, Damian Lillard, Nas Little, Yusuf Nurkic, Anthony Simons all remain out. Josh Hart going to sit this one out. I believe the second half of a back-to-back today. Justice Winslow is back for this team after sitting out the front half. So when you look at this Portland team, and we did get the lineup, I think there was a lot of people thought Chris Dunn was going to slide into the lineup here. Chris Dunn, I believe on the 10-day still, maybe on his second, but backing up Brandon Williams in this offense. Now will stay the backup tonight. It's Brandon Williams, Justice Winslow, CJ Ellaby, Trendon Watford staying at the 4, and my guy Drew Eubanks at the 5. I actually think, like, I'll start here, Adam. Justice Winslow is by far my favorite play in that starting lineup. Obviously, we saw him take the rest last night with the Achilles issue is how they listed him, but we saw him get near 30 minutes against Brooklyn 3 nights ago, and him getting to 30 minutes at this price tag with the players who are available. I have a good amount of interest in getting some Justice Winslow, especially in MME builds. And for me, I never thought Chris Dunn was going to start, and I still think he is absolutely a fine value.
For me, it didn't even. I just didn't like. I obviously would have preferred him to start, but like I wasn't thinking of it really either way. I was like, okay, if he starts, he's like an even better value play. If he doesn't, he's still one of the best value plays. And obviously, this was earlier in the day, so things have changed, obviously. But I don't think it really should move. It shouldn't move you off of him just like in a vacuum, but it could be like now the difference, a tiebreaker between some of the other value plays that have kind of surfaced the last hour.
Yeah, I think with Chris Dunn, the minutes just seem really safe at this point because we've seen him get 24 or more minutes in the last 3 games. Again, he's only appeared in 20 minutes in his debut with this team. 24 minutes last game in the 30-point loss, and then 26 in the 5-point game against Brooklyn. So he's playing in blowouts. He's playing in close games. So at 3.8, this is a guy who's a 0.91 DK point per minute producer on his career. Obviously, a little over a fantasy point per minute through his first 4 games here, but at 3.8, he's still a fine value on this slate. Then looking across the ball at Detroit, we already knew Hamidou Diallo, Jeremy Grant, Frank Jackson, and then Chris Smith is also out for this team. But now Kelly Olynyk, Corey Joseph joining them on the sidelines. Killian Hayes was listed probable, and he is in as expected. So shorthanded Detroit team here. I guess I kind of moved off Portland without asking if you had anything else there. Anything else from the Blazers, or take me through Detroit if you're done with Portland?
Yeah, I'll just add, I agree. From the starting five, Winslow is my favorite as well. We've seen him play point forward a lot on different teams in scenarios just like this. When the team is depleted, Winslow just kind of plays point forward for that team. And I think we could see that a lot today. For Detroit, yeah, I mean, super shorthanded. I mean, Saddiq Bey has been really underrated all year, I feel like. And obviously he's coming off that, a couple games ago, that 51-point game. But I like him a lot here. I mean, I would have liked him if Grant was active and some of these other players were even active. But, his usage rate goes up by around, 1.5% with Grant off the floor, right under a fantasy point per minute in the split. And he's facing this awful Portland team that is second most points per game allowed off spot up, second most points per possession, second worst field goal percentage, and Saddiq Bey is averaging about 5.5 spot up points per game, top 20 in the NBA. I think there's a massive ceiling for him here. But then obviously, Cade Cunningham, we've seen him, with massive ceilings. He's been a lot more consistent lately. I think he's one of the safer plays, and his minutes have been way up, and they should continue to stay up with everybody out. And then you look at the front court, right? Kelly Olynyk's out. Jeremy Grant, who plays the four a lot, out. So you're going to see plenty of minutes now split between Marvin Bagley, who's been really efficient since being traded to Detroit, and Isaiah Stewart, who 5,100, I mean, Isaiah Stewart, the reason we weren't talking about him a lot in the first half of the season was he was barely touching 30 minutes. And it's been a lot more consistent now when he's not in foul trouble or whatever. But 5,100 against a Portland team that's just terrible. I believe they're like bottom 5 in points per game off putbacks as well. So Detroit usually is like, okay, Cade's interesting in tournaments and Saddiq Bey's interesting in tournaments. And then you kind of move on, at least for me. But now it's like they're probably one of the more interesting. This game's obviously one of the most interesting games, and Detroit is one of the most interesting teams on the slate.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think my favorite 3 plays from this team, not super different from you. I would go Cade, Bagley, and actually Killian Hayes at the 3.8 price
Yeah,
tag.
I didn't even mention him.
Saddiq Bey, Beef Stew, Saban Lee even picking up 8s in the rankings. So I think you can play almost anybody from this team that's going to get significant minutes. I don't think I'm going to Isaiah Livers today. Certainly not Luka Garza. I do expect him to pick up a rotation or 2 with Kelly O out. So yeah, I think there's a lot of places you can go in this game and a lot of pieces that are really good, solid value filler for your lineups, for your MME builds tonight. Did want to get to a couple questions here and some news that's broke in the last 5 minutes. Eric Gordon, who was questionable, I believe, with the illness, non-COVID illness, he will play for the Rockets. Devontae Graham, who we talked about being questionable, he's available to play for the Pelicans against the Hornets. And then Patrick Williams, the return, Adam, limited to 25 minutes off the bench. So near full run for Pat Williams there, right? Like, how many minutes is he going to play when this team is full health? Like, not much more than 30. Winky may come in and correct me, but I think that's a great sign for Patrick Williams.
Yeah, and I, as a Cavs fan, hoping Cleveland wins, but then, like, the East is so crazy because, like, Toronto and Chicago play each other. One of them has to lose, which benefits Cleveland. The other one has to win, which doesn't benefit Cleveland. So it's crazy how, like, it's been crazy all year, but especially now as we, go down the final stretch here, like, Boston was, struggling all year. They can, like, pass Philly tonight, I think. Cleveland can get up to the 5th seed or 4th seed soon. Like, it's or 5th seed soon. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a heck of a last 3 weeks here. Couple questions coming in 2v2 here from Romulus. Chris Dunn and Porzingis, or Joval and Shake Milton. Obviously, we'll talk Philly here in a minute. I lean slightly to the Dunn-Porzingis pairing there, Adam.
So we'll talk about it. I wrote up Porzingis this morning. We don't have any sort of, clarity on if he is still on a minutes limit or not. I would imagine they don't play him more than like 32, and he probably plays 28 to 32 in that range because, like, again, it's the season's over. You're not going anywhere. But I love the spot for him.
Yeah.
I'll slightly lean the second side just because I feel safer about Joval's minutes. But we'll talk about it. I do love Porzingis today. And this was before the Kuzma news. So,
well, Bulls news giveth, Bulls news taketh away. Billy Donovan saying that Lonzo Ball will stop running on his knee for the next 10 days. They've been trying to ramp him up, but the knee has not responded well. So that is unfortunate for the Chicago contingent of the FTN community here. Yeah, with you on Porzingis. Is not a smash play, but definitely strong. Even in the limited minutes that we expect. If he gets up to 32, I think he's going to put up a really solid number for that price tag and the power forward.
If he gets to 32 minutes, my prediction is he's in the optimal lineup.
Yeah, that's I would not disagree with that. I would not fight you on that. Anthony says, "Don't fall for the Tobias Harris trap." We'll talk Philly here in a minute.
I mean, this is
yeah. Josh is asking, do you prefer Maxey to Harris? We'll talk Philly here in 5 or 6 minutes. Last one here before we go back to the game-by-game. P-Buck asking on Yahoo, he's looking at Beef Stew and Christian Wood or Drew Eubanks and Fred VanVleet. How do you come down on that 2v2 there? Because that's a tough one in my book.
That is tough. I think I'm leaning the first side, but it is close. I just think Christian Wood is really in a good spot today. And like obviously we talked about Isaiah Stewart, the bump he's going to see in minutes, and when he plays minutes, we know he's productive, and the matchup's obviously great too.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will play, and I would also lean to that first side. I think the upside's just a little bit muted there with Drew Eubanks, and Fred VanVleet just hasn't been. He's not right now.
Yeah, like if they weren't in this battle for playoff seeding, like he wouldn't be playing right now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He's been on the injury report for I know he's been off the injury report the last couple of days, but like prior to the last couple of games, it's been like kind of like Jimmy Butler. It's like he's questionable. We'll see if he plays. Questionable. See if he plays.
Oh boy, here's some fun stuff. Olivier Sarr ruled out non-COVID illness. So Isaiah Roby going to be back in our lives. So we'll talk about OKC when we get there. We'll keep going here about 33 minutes and change until these first 3 games lock. Jazz visiting the Nets out in Brooklyn. Pretty extensive injury report for this one too, Adam. Nets still missing LaMarcus Aldridge, Joe Harris, of course, Kyrie Irving still ineligible to play at home. Day'Ron Sharpe down with the G League team. Obviously Ben Simmons still nursing the back. And then Goran Dragic, I believe a late questionable, added to the injury report in the last hour, unless I missed him being on it earlier in the day. On the other side, no Udoka Azubuike, no Bojan Bogdanovic. Trent Forrest is in, Daniel House is out. So let's start with the visitors here. And my favorite play from this game, Adam, is Donovan Mitchell at 9K flat, over a 36% usage rate with no Bojan Bogdanovic on the court this season. And of course, no Joe Ingles, with Ingles being in Portland. And I believe averaging 31, 7, and 7 in the 4 games that Bojan has missed. So talk to me about Spider Mitchell. Are you as strong on him as I am tonight, or are you looking elsewhere from this Jazz team? Because it's a good matchup.
I mean, yeah, I like him, and I kind of alluded to it earlier about how many options there are in the mid to 8K to 9K range at guard, and Donovan Mitchell is obviously in consideration there. I would prefer to get to Garland, and I think I slightly lean McCollum, but Donovan Mitchell is obviously a very strong play. I mean, you can make the case Rudy Gobert, like the matchup was already good against Brooklyn, and now with no Drummond, I mean, Gobert at 7,800 could easily have one of his huge double-doubles. But I'm pretty sure that's, I don't think you're going anywhere else from this team, right? I mean, Clarkson at 6'6", with Conley back in the lineup. Conley just doesn't know how to shoot the basketball anymore, I guess, so he just can't score. It's just ridiculous, the slump he's in shooting the basketball. I don't want to go there. It's really just Gobert and Mitchell for me from Utah.
Yeah, it's really like, I mean, we saw that one game, right, with Conley where he put up, 29 points against Milwaukee,
yeah,
but he shot 10 of 13.
Yeah,
and kind of then dipped right back down to the depths of what we've seen his shooting percentage, rather, become over the last month. So I think I'm pretty much with you on the rest of this team. Not a ton stands out. Like, I'm fine to go to Mike Conley. He would make my player pool. along with Rudy Gobert, but I'm very high on getting Donovan Mitchell tonight on this 9-game slate where I think the ownership up top is going to be fairly spread out to 36 and 37 real points from Donovan Mitchell in his last 2 games. Then looking at Brooklyn, again, shorthanded. I guess Andre Drummond now doubtful, something that I didn't mention because that wasn't on the last official injury report, but that did come through on Twitter. Kevin Durant, no Kyrie, no Ben Simmons, 10-7, small and power forward eligible on DK, as the Pelicans will start CJ McCollum, Devontae Graham, Herb Jones, Jackson Hayes, Jonas Valanciunas, so no surprises there. Obviously, Kevin Durant, a phenomenal play, but I think this is a game where we could see a potential blowout in favor of Utah, and that's what has me shying away a little bit from Kevin Durant, and he doesn't quite make the studs that I would want in one lineup tonight.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Really, for this team, it's Durant. If you want to get to him, obviously he's got as high of a ceiling as almost anybody, especially with Kyrie out. And then Claxton, right? I mean, he's played 137 minutes over the last 2 weeks with both Aldridge and Drummond off the floor. Obviously, like they wouldn't have all three on the floor together, but you know what I'm saying. In that span, just under a fantasy point per minute, 28% rebounding rate. So we've seen the upside from him, and now it's like we'd seen when Drummond's been active, it's been like they both play like 24 minutes right around. And Claxton's been productive in those minutes. And now he can get up to 30 minutes potentially at 4K. He definitely stands out now, assuming Drummond doesn't get ruled out in the next, half hour or so.
Yeah, no question about it. Anywhere else on this team besides Claxton and Durant, like Seth Curry is back. Again, if Goran Dragic gets in there, you would expect him to probably play into the mid-30s. In minutes, as long as this game hung in the balance. Like, are we going to see Nectat, James Johnson, get out there now at 3-3? We know Day'Ron Sharpe, at least on the official injury report, some teams have misrepresented who's exactly down with their minor league team. But if Sharpe's not there, is it Nectat picking up those extra minutes? Is Blake Griffin going to get in there for some run? Like, do you have any interest in those guys, or is that just kind of a step too far on this 9-game slate?
Yeah, I don't think I'm too interested.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. Let's go ahead and move on to the other game. I think a little bit more to discuss here. The other game tipping off at 7:30, the Heat visiting the Sixers. On the Heat side, interesting because they always have a couple guys on the injury report listed questionable, it feels like, but it's kind of the secondary players that are out tonight. Gabe Vincent, Victor Oladipo taking a seat. Caleb Martin and Jimmy Butler were listed questionable, but I believe are available to play. You can correct me if I saw that wrong. Then on the Philly side, man.
I don't get this. I don't get why they didn't do this yesterday.
Yeah.
Why would you rest? Why would you rest against Miami and not Toronto? And it's not like this came out of nowhere. Like Embiid's been dealing with this back for like a week now, and he's been questionable in plays. Like you knew a rest day was coming. I don't get the timing of it. I really don't.
As Adam alluded to, no Joel Embiid, no James Harden. Back issues still for Embiid persisting. Resting that left hamstring is James Harden. So two of my favorite plays on the slate, going to be two of the highest owned plays, are Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey. 6'4" on DK on Harris, power forward only, point guard only on Maxey, but 6'2". I absolutely love both of these guys. I don't like it's a 7-point spread last I checked, Adam. I just think this game stays competitive enough where these guys get enough minutes where they're not going to disappoint me, and they could blow these price tags out of the water if this game stays close. We don't have really a sample size that I feel confident in terms of like
I think it's like 11
stuff,
minutes. I think both players have played 11 minutes since Harden's debut, with both Harden and Embiid off the floor, which isn't too shocking because like we see this all the time when a team has two, all NBA players. Like one player will be on the floor at all times. I think it's just over 11 minutes. Now in those 11 minutes, both players north of 30% usage, but not the greatest of samples. But like you don't even need usage rates. Like where the usage is going on this team tonight. Like it's just.
Yeah, and that's my argument.
I'm just still bitter they lost at Toronto, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. Hey man, welcome to the
Oh,
playoff
how about
run.
you? We didn't even talk about that yesterday.
Nah, come on. We don't need
Keldon
to talk about
Johnson,
that.
MVP.
We can talk Spurs after lock. I won't subject the lovely subs here at FTN to any of that on this slate. Yeah, man, this is chalk I want to eat tonight. I don't think I would be prioritizing pairing up Tobias and Tyrese Maxey, but I think I would make sure that I had one of them at least one of them in every single lineup that I made tonight. And I think Shake Milton, probably my favorite value from this team at 3-1, followed by Georges Niang. DeAndre Jordan's going to project well as long as he gets the start here, but I have a lot of hesitation in pushing a lot of chips in on DeAndre Jordan, taking up a center spot. And just like, I think we could see him play. They have other bodies that they can roll out there. Millsap,
DeAndre Jordan
Paul
has
Reed,
been
Charles
literally
Bassey.
awful. He's been so bad.
Yep.
I'll just get up to Claxton. I'll find a way.
Yeah.
I will find a way.
Yeah, so if I was running my MME build tonight, I would probably have some exposure to DeAndre Jordan, but I think I would end up under the field on what I think the ownership would be there. Again, obviously things very much in flux with all the news that has come in over the last 90 minutes. Speaking of ownership, just looking at the last update from Kyle and the team, Derek White, Rui Hachimura, Tobias Harris, the top 3 projected owned players on DraftKings. Derek White, somebody we'll get to here in a second. But before we do, Adam, let's talk Raptors and Bulls.
Real quick, fast. What do we project the starting 5 to be? Maxey, like they could still keep Shake off the bench.
I think Shake does come off the bench.
So
I
like
think
Korkmaz at the 2, and then Tease at the 3, Tobias at the 4, and DeAndre at the 5.
I think they slot in Danny Green at the 2, and it's Maxey, Green, Tybal, Harris, Jordan.
In which case you have 2 players in the starting 5, and I guess 3 if you add DeAndre Jordan, who have like sub 12% usage rates.
It's like almost negative usage rates for Matisse Tybal.
It's insane. Tyrese Maxey might hit 40% usage in this game.
Yeah, not surprised by that one bit. Raptors at Bulls here, 8 p.m. tip-off in this one. Raptors still missing OG Anunoby, Justin Champagny, Malachi Flynn, and Gary Trent Jr., hyperextended big toe. That was kind of a late morning addition to the injury report. So Fred VanVleet, I think, expected to return here, not on the injury report, but Gary Trent hitting the bench. So looking at this Toronto team, what stands out to you? Obviously, Fred VanVleet, the 7-9 price tag, I think will pull some people in, but as we alluded to earlier, the guy's just not right. That knee is really bothering him right now. And I think the most interest I have in this team comes from some of the value pieces.
Yeah, I mean, like Siakam, Barnes, VanVleet. There won't really be a slate where I say anybody from Toronto's starting 5 is a bad play. 40 minutes are pretty not even like in the range of outcomes. They are the outcome, right? But like I believe Joe wrote about him in his 5 stats article. Like Chris Boucher, like obviously VanVleet's playing, and a lot of the numbers he pointed out were with VanVleet out. But like now you have Gary Trent out. You already have OG Anunoby out, and with no true backup point guard because Malachi Flynn's also out. Like, if we know anytime Chris Boucher can play like 27 to 30 minutes, he's got a massive ceiling. So I guess the question I'll throw it back to you is like, how do you feel about Boucher? And I know you said you have more interest in some of the value pieces from Toronto.
Yeah, Boucher, one of those value pieces that I was hinting at. I like him a good bit. The power forward eligibility, only power forward on DraftKings, but we saw him didn't get the start yesterday, but played the vast majority of the game. It was like 38 and a half minutes off the bench. I think we'll see something similar here, even if he's just in the low 30s. 4.8 is too cheap for a guy like Chris Boucher, even with Siakam and Fred VanVleet, the guys who are going to take most of the usage, Scotty Barnes, even with those guys out there. I like Chris Boucher a lot. I think you can Precious Achiuwa. I would prefer Boucher even for the $200 more and coming off the bench, just because he's not taking up a center spot. But Precious has been great for this team over the last couple of weeks, whether he's been in the starting lineup or coming off the bench. And then if I was running 150 lineups, I'll probably have a couple shares of Thad Young at 3-2 with his power forward eligibility. But that's about it for me from this team.
I agree.
Bulls side, we kind of talked about it earlier. Patrick Williams is back for this team, coming off the bench, limited to 25 minutes. Lonzo Ball suffered kind of a setback, I guess, reported about 20 minutes ago. So you've got DeMar DeRozan, all the prices down as this team gets healthier on the Elite Three from this roster. DeMar DeRozan, Nick Vucevic, Zach LaVine, 8-7, 7-8, and 7-6, respectively, on DraftKings. And you're still probably going to catch a Dosunmu start. At the 1, he's 4-8. Kobe White coming off the bench 4-5. Alex Caruso 4-1. I guess let's stick with the top 3 guys to start here. Who's your priority out of those 3 studs?
Yeah, you talked about it. It's kind of odd to see, LaVine, Vucevic, and DeRozan all, DeRozan under 9K and LaVine and Vucevic under 8K. Mm-hmm. I think of the 3, I like Vucevic the most. I think it's been overlooked, the fact that like traditional centers can really get after Toronto because they play so much Siakam at the 5 and Boucher at the 5 and Achiuwa at the 5. Mm-hmm. Vucevic has been really good in 2 meetings against his team, and now he's under 8K. I kind of like Vucevic a lot in tournaments. And then like Patrick Williams, like it said, he's cleared to play. He won't play more than 25. So it doesn't mean he's going to play 20. He could play 18, but like he's 3K.
Yeah,
there's risk, but like if he plays 25 minutes at 3K,
yeah, that's a good point. I mean,
he's not like an incredible per minute producer in fantasy, and
he was much, like obviously we only saw 4.5 games before he went out at the beginning of this season, but the fantasy rates were really concerning. Again, Lonzo was healthy then, but like I think the point is that we were going to see a new Patrick Williams in terms of being a daily fantasy asset compared to his rookie year when the team wasn't nearly as good or stacked. So I just don't think he's somebody that I'm going to get to tonight. But like now, like you put that thought in my head now that he is in play and he probably deserves.
I literally like just thought it like I didn't just think of it, but I was looking at it. I was like, oh yeah, he's playing and he's playing 25 minutes and like that has value at 3K.
Yeah, he just got a little bump in the ranks there. Somebody I think I would include now in a 150 build that I wasn't really considering before. I guess, I didn't know we were going to get 25 minutes from Pat.
Yeah, that seemed pretty high, but like you said earlier, I think it's probably a good sign that he's pretty healthy.
No question. 2 more games here at 8, and then the late night hammer. It's not really late night hammer, but the hammer for the slate at 8:30 Eastern. We'll stick here with the Wizards visiting the Rockets, and we did get a couple pieces of news here. Lakers starting Westbrook, Reeves, Wenyen Gabriel, LeBron James, Dwight Howard back into the lineup here at center. Goran Dragic available to play. Andre Drummond officially ruled out, and now Pistons, Cunningham, Hayes, Bay, Bagley, Beef Stew. And then the timely starting lineup here as we get into this game, Wizards going Neto, Caldwell Pope, Kispert, Rui Hachimura, and Kristaps Porzingis. So again, Kyle Kuzma ruled out for the Wizards against the Rockets tonight, and the Wizards coming in 4-point road favorites, 234 implied total in this game. I believe second highest on the slate, Adam. So when you look at the Wizards now with no Kuzma, who stands out to you as a priority? I know we touched on Porzingis earlier.
Yeah, it's obviously Porzingis. I wrote about him earlier today. So again, we don't have like an exact, we don't have a definitive answer. Like, is he limited? I think he is to an extent. I don't think he's limited to like 25. I think, like I said, he plays 28 to 32 in that range. Mm-hmm. And he's been pretty good. Like the rebounds have been a little bit up and down, but fantasy wise, since he's joined this team or since he's made his debut, the last 2 weeks, 30.5% usage, 1.37 fantasy points per minute. Now you take Kuzma out of it. A matchup against the Rockets, who are allowing the most real points per game to opposing centers, second most post-up points per game. What is he, 7,700? Like, if he plays 28 minutes, he could still smash because Kuzma's out. If he plays 32, he could, be amazing. So I definitely like I said, if I had interest in Kuzma before Kuzma was ruled out, because when the original news was that Kuzma was expected to play today, last night or early this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Then he got ruled out, and it's like, okay, so if you like Porzingis with the expectation Kuzma was playing, I don't know how you don't like him now, even more so.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that.
But Rui's interesting too now.
I like Rui a lot, man. I know he's power forward only, but 3.9, like we've seen him not quite touch 30 minutes this season, but if he's getting into the upper 20s at this price, I'm gonna have some significant interest there. But I think you can get, especially in your MME builds, you can get shares of Avdia, Kispert, Rui, of course. I think Raul Neto and Ish Smith would make a couple lineups for me in 150. So plenty of options there from the Wizards. Man, like my lighting is never great, Adam, but there's a storm that like is just now passing over where I'm at, and it is extremely dark in here, even with the mediocre lighting that I do have. So apologies for that. I know P-Buck wants to see this wannabe goatee that I've got going on here. Let's talk about the Rockets. Of course, no John Wall. We talked about Eric Gordon being in. Still no Usman Garuba, my guy there in Houston. Christian Wood, Kevin Porter Jr. stand out to me as the two guys that I would want to have shares of. And I have probably double the interest in Christian Wood than I do in Kevin Porter Jr. I love the matchup. We talked about him earlier, kind of being in that range at center where there's a lot of attractive options, Gobert, Valanciunas, and Christian Wood. So outside of those two guys, I guess, recap how you feel about those two. And then are there any pieces of value? Like Şengün's still too expensive. Jayshawn Tate's down to 4.4, but he hasn't been getting the minutes or producing. Garrison Matthews 3.4. I think there's better values. Like, how are you breaking down the Rockets?
So I literally don't have anything else to add other than what you said is 100% how I feel about Houston. I like Wood a lot in tournaments. We've seen Washington struggle to defend the centers out of the pick and roll for all year. Now they do have Porzingis now, but there's going to be minutes where Wood's on the floor and Porzingis isn't. And I still think there's a lot of upside with Wood at 8,200. So yeah, one of my I think in terms of tournament plays at center, I talked about Wood and Vucevic. I think they stand out as like two of my favorite GPP centers on the slate.
Sure. And you compare those guys and put Porzingis at power forward on DraftKings and still have a center spot open at utility. Derek White and Grant Williams confirmed starting in place of the absent Marcus Smart and Robert Williams tonight. And we'll go ahead and get into that game. Celtics at the Thunder. Obviously a huge spread here, even with those two guys out. 14.5-point road favorites are the Celtics. 216.5 implied total in this one, Adam. So let's go ahead and just start with the C's. With those two guys out, I love Derek White. I know the ownership is or at least was through the roof. I think that ownership's going to come down, especially with the news that we got over the last 90 minutes. I think people are going to be looking at some of the shiny new toys. Obviously, there's not just blowout risk. I think the blowout is just extremely likely here. But at 4.7, it's really tough for me to get away from a starting Derek White against the Thunder. And I think there's plenty of merit to rostering Jason Tatum at 9.9, Jaylen Brown,
especially with SGA active now.
Yeah, and Al Horford with the power forward eligibility at 5.9 in this matchup, where now Olivier Sarr is out, et cetera. And we'll get to the Thunder here in a minute. How do you like Boston? And we've got a couple questions over the last hour about, how many Celtics are too many. And for me, it's more than two. And I think even getting two in my lineup, I'm not feeling great about it, especially depending on who they are. So how do you feel about the C's?
Yeah, Derek White is a very, very good play. I don't think he's like I don't think he's a must. I don't think you can make a lineup without Derek White on this slate. But at 4,700, starting, you can argue starting, usage, now after sharing it with Tatum and Brown is worse for him. But at the end of the day, the minutes are going to be there. Jason Tatum could go for 70 fantasy points if this game stays remotely close. So if you get to him at under 10K, I have no problem with it. Same with Jaylen Brown at under 8K. His price has been down for a little bit now. I struggle with Horford because he's not cheap. He's not expensive. He obviously gets a bump in minutes with Robert Williams out, playing more center and just playing more minutes. I think his rebounding rate's around 30% with Williams off the floor. The Thunder have been awful against centers. They allow the most rebounds per game to centers. So we could have like a 35-point fantasy game pretty easily. But like, if this game does blow out, Al Horford's the first player coming out. So like,
Yeah.
he could easily still play 25 minutes in this game and be like, oh, he played like 3 more minutes than he usually does. If he gets home, it's fine. But where he's priced, I think he's 5'9" on DraftKings. Like, I think I'd rather go down to like Isaiah Stewart. If I'm, I think he's kind of priced awkwardly where I'd rather go down to Stewart. Bagley's the same price, and I think Bagley's minutes are probably, which is crazy to say, right? Because talking about Bagley's minutes being safe, it's kind of crazy. But I think right now, given the circumstances in Detroit, they are, and I think he has a higher ceiling. So I think it comes down to that for me with Horford. He's kind of priced awkwardly where if I can get up a little bit more to get some other centers, I'd prefer to do that. And then when I talked about Stewart and Bagley going down, Bagley's the same price, but Stewart going down.
Well, let's flip to this Thunder side here and try to parse through some of this news.
I don't want to talk about this team anymore. I just don't.
I mean, oh man, I was on Isaiah Roby, I don't know, 10 days ago, like 2 slates in a row. He kept shit in the bed, and then Olivier Sarr got into the starting lineup, and now that he's out, like I feel like I have to have, again, it's a tough matchup, but how many bodies? And I don't know if we even mentioned this on the stream yet. Davis Bertans, by the way, ruled out for the Mavericks. Ball, Rozier, Bridges, Washington, Plumlee for the Hornets, so no surprises there. But Darius Bazley is now questionable with an illness as well, so he could sit. And if that's the case, Adam, Isaiah Roby time, Alexei Pokashevsky time, who I think you could already play even before that news. So, and then SGA, of course, at 9-7. Like how would you prioritize these Thunder guys? Because I think we have to have interest now.
If I'm playing SGA, I'm playing Tatum. I think because there is not a chance in the world the Thunder keep this game close and SGA has a floor game. There's just no shot. There's no shot. But yeah, Isaiah Roby, what helps him too, power forward and center. So you can play him at the power forward spot and still play a lot of the centers that you like. You can go to him clearly in tournaments, but if Darius Bazley gets ruled out, then it's like, okay, he becomes one of the – and we talked about it, like he was a really strong value play for a long stretch, and then the minutes were really consistent. Then they've been up and down. He's been in and out of the rotation. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I mean, Sarr out, and now if Darius Bazley's out, it's hard not to – despite the matchup. And the matchup's bad. It does get a little bit better with probably Boston's 2 best defenders out, and Smart and Rob Williams literally just plays free safety. It's so fun to watch. They literally let him play free safety, and he just goes around blocking shots, stealing. It's amazing. So
and rebounds. Like, dude, when Udoka made that change, there was a stretch of games where Robert Williams was like almost getting 10 rebounds in every first quarter for like 2 weeks.
I was looking, it's like, all right, nice. Where are the peripherals for Tatum? And Robert Williams has 8 rebounds with 2 minutes left in the first quarter. Like, cool. But the defense does take a hit. They're still an elite unit, but it does take a hit. So, I mean, Darius Bazley, we'll see if he's out.
Yeah, so I think obviously we'll have to watch for that. Regardless, Adam, Isaiah Roby becomes a very strong play for me. The premium subscribers, I know we're free, and I don't know, there's probably only a few people tuning into this that aren't premium subscribers, but very strong ranking there on my guy Isaiah Roby for a lot of the reasons you mentioned. Still got to love that power forward eligibility. So that rankings update is pushed. One more game to go here at Adam. One more game. Wolves, Mavs, Luka Doncic, 12K, highest priced player on DraftKings on the slate. Talk to me about Luka. He's my second favorite spend up, and it's very close behind LeBron for the reasons I mentioned earlier when we talked about the Cavs.
It's the same for me, but it's not the same. Luka is my favorite over LeBron, but it's very close. And as good as Dinwiddie's played lately for Dallas, there's no ceiling at 6,500, but especially with Jalen Brunson there. Shocker, but I don't really like anybody on Dallas other than Luka. Though, I mean, yes, it's a massive pace-up spot for Dallas. Almost every game is, but like there's difference between a pace up spot between Dallas, who's like 29th in pace, and they face the team that's 19th in pace to facing Minnesota, who's top 3. So it is a massive pace up spot.
Yeah, I think with Dallas, I'm with you. It's just kind of Luka, and like if I had to go somewhere else, I think it's Dinwiddie. Brunson.
He has been really strong for them lately. So
well, it's just he's negatively affecting Jalen Brunson's fantasy production so much that I just think Jalen Brunson is not really somebody that I can even consider at.
Do you think they re-sign him?
Price tag. I don't know, man. That's a podcast topic. Yeah. And by the way, when we go off air, I got a couple that I'm going to throw at you maybe for this week. Let's talk T-Wolves real quick. Karl Anthony Towns, still uncertain, questionable with that right forearm contusion. I lean that he plays at him, but we may not get that news until the 8 other games are locked. D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards in the mid 7Ks. I think both of those guys are fine. Jared Vanderbilt getting back in there recently. 4-9. I think I prefer Pat Bev for 200 less, but kind of this entire team. And this game is just kind of a secondary game for me outside of Luka.
Yeah, I have really no interest in Minnesota if Towns plays. Obviously, you can play Towns. He's been great, but like different position. But like Durant's not that much more expensive. I prefer Durant. We talked about a lot of the centers we liked. If Towns is out, and again, we won't get that news for a little bit, then you can look at Vanderbilt and some of the the other players from the front court. But right now, it's not much for me from Minnesota.
All right, let's hit questions here. We've got a little under 5 minutes until we hit lock. Again, those first 3 games will lock. Still 6 to come after that on this slate. Romulus coming in with a 2v2. Roby and McCollum or KP and Bagley. I lean the first side, but both of those are great pairings.
I also lean the first side.
My guy Steelers fan asking, why is CJ Ellaby a 7? Seems to be getting 20 plus a game, and now Hart is out. Number one, the other value plays on this slate. You got to look at the ranks in the context of the full slate. And CJ Ellaby is just not a guy that produces well enough for me to really have interest today. I'd rather Justice Winslow. I think I'd rather spend up for a guy like Trendon Watford, who's playing a ton of minutes, getting backup time at the 5, backing up Drew Eubanks. So, yeah, Ellaby just not really in consideration for me, unless you're running 150, and even then, minimal interest here. Ricky asking Poku. Yes, absolutely. You can Poku tonight. Very, very even stronger play. Of course, if Basley is out. Kruger's asking Luka and Tybal or Porzingis and Cade. I mean the second, by the way.
Yeah, like, can you play somebody other than Matisse Tybal?
Yeah.
Then
I guess that would be my answer.
Right,
obviously, Luka the best play out of those 4, in my opinion, but the floor on Tybal is just like single-digit fantasy points, even in this spot, in my opinion, Adam.
His ceiling is like 25 or 30, and he has to get like 8 stocks, which he can do.
Yeah. There's still 2 guys. I mean, Maxey, again, we talked about it. Maxey and Tobias are going to take the vast majority of the usage still in this lineup. Roman Empire asking, any Daniel Tice love with Time Lord out? I think he's fine. But again, even in if I was running 20 lineups, I wouldn't have any, because in the context of the full slate, there's so many better options, in my opinion. Do you differ at all there, Adam?
Nope.
Steelers fan asking our favorite small forward play on DraftKings for 4,500 or less, and just kind of looking at the names that pop up right there. Reggie Bullock, Denny Avdia. I would prefer Avdia, but I think those 2. Royce O'Neal, not terrible. CJ Ellaby, who we just talked about. Corey Kispert. I think Avdia and Kispert, my favorite 2 there, followed by Bullock. Speaking of Bullock, confirmed he will start coming back from that personal issue. Let's see. Next question. Does Tice get run in a blowout? Who's still there? I want to say Bruno Fernando, but I know he's in Houston now. Luke Cornett is there, so I think there's a potential for Tyson not to get blowout run there. Somebody can correct me if they think I'm wrong, but we'll go ahead and move on here with a minute and a half to go. Hayes or Dunn on DK for you? So Killian Hayes, 2 Hayes on the slate, obviously Jackson and Killian Hayes or Chris Dunn. I think I would lean slightly to Chris Dunn, but I like both of those guys as values.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I believe they are both the exact same price at 3,800. So
Yep, there you go. Gender rated saying Cunningham and Fred VanVleet or SGA and Derek White. I think I lean the second side.
I lean the first side.
Oh, put it on the board?
Yeah.
All right, lunch bet. Adam's got Cade and Van Vliet. I've got SGA and Derek White.
If that Boston game stays close, I will. You'll be eating. You'll be eating a nice lunch this week.
Oh yeah, we'll supersize that sandwich. Josh asking Bron and Ant Edwards or Joval and KD. It's absolutely the first side for me if Cat is out.
Yeah, I don't love Edwards but I like LeBron a decent bit more than Durant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'll go the first side. I think I'll still lean the first side, but it's very close for now. Anthony saying, oh, he's asking me if I'm ready to be disappointed in Tobias Harris. I leave that up to you and the rest of the Philly fans. In terms of a play, yeah, sure. Tobias Harris has burned me and the rest of us for years, multiple.
Uh-oh. He might have lost power. He very well might have lost power. I guess we'll give him a couple minutes if he gets back in here. If not, it's already 7 o'clock anyway, so we'll just hop out. But it was a possibility that he would lose power, and it looks like that's what happened. So, but yeah, it is lock. I don't think Zach will be back. He's just sitting there staring. So, Thomas, are you here, or is it just me?
Here.
Thomas
I'm
is
here.
here. There's Thomas.
Yeah.
So, at least I'm just glad it happened at the end of the show.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to wrap?
Yeah, we can wrap. I mean, it's lock anyway. We'll be in Discord as always the rest of the evening, pretty much all the time. So make sure you check that out. Get subscribed over to FTN Fantasy, FTN Daily, all that great stuff. And for Zach, hopefully he gets his power back on. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.